Channel 10. This is Eyewitness News with John Scott, Diane Magnum, meteorologist Brian Norcross, Frank Fort, and the Channel 10 Eyewitness News team.
Good evening. Trying to relocate a relic doesn't seem to be an easy job in South Florida these days. For the second time in less than a month, a landmark looking for a new home has crumbled. Take a look back at the first one, called the Brown House, a huge, well-preserved example of early Miami architecture. 3 weeks ago, crews were moving the house in 3 pieces when the largest one tipped off the truck and shattered all over the the MacArthur Causeway. And today, Eyewitness News reporter Vicki Frazier says another big moving project fell apart.
It was appropriately called the Great Snake Move. After 30 years of standing in this spot, the 24-ton snake was getting a new home at South Miami High School. Not far away, a welcoming committee of hundreds stood ready, while several more students got to the site early enough to watch workers get it out of the ground.
I think it's great. I think it's the best thing that's happened in school in a long time.
How many schools have something like this as their mascot on their property? Not very many.
But moving the Cobra was tougher than expected.
Well, initially we thought we'd be able to take the whole slab up with it, which would have been much easier, but the slab is about twice the size we thought it was, and it's a lot heavier, and we're afraid of, by lifting all the weight at one time, we may crush the Cobra.
Spectators waited hours, workers wanting to be careful. When the time came to shake it loose, the support apparently wasn't in the right place.
The mood, of course, was sad that it happened, but we are not going to be down.
The band paid its respect to the Cobra, but only for a minute. As students, alumni, and passers-by picked up pieces of the landmark for keepsakes, the new owners of the Serpentarium property threw in $500 for a fund to rebuild the Cobra.
Greatly disappointed, but relieved to know that the school is willing and wanting to go ahead and to restore it.
The Great Snake Move is something students and alumni have waited years for. A celebration was planned, and these students had no intentions of changing anything. They held up traffic on Miller Road for the parade to the high school, with the Cobra trailing behind. In South Miami, Vicki Frazier, Channel 10, Eyewitness News.
A delivery gone wrong in South Dade today. The effort to move a Dixie Highway landmark turned out to be snake-bitten. Here's Tim Minton with more.
It was a public relations coup. The people who bought out the Serpentarium donating its old mascot to the home of the Cobras, South Miami High. To get the giant snake there, a 4-mile truck ride planned with pizzazz. Bands played, and at the school, students literally snake danced in the street. But then a crane did what 2 decades of wind and rain had not.
Oh, my goodness.
Reaction was fast from the man in charge of the move.
We know from the first we started, we cannot guarantee nothing about it, and we just try to make our best.
And from the Cobra Marching Band. Despite all the trouble, there's likely to be a lot of truth in the souvenir T-shirts that were handed out about an hour ago. School officials say they're going to put this Cobra back together again. They'll do it with the help of South Park Shopping Center, which donated the snake in the first place and then added $500 for repairs. And they'll do it despite Kim Waters, a spectator who walked off with the Cobra's red ceramic tongue.
I hope if they rebuild it, if they want the tongue, I'll give it back to them, you know. All they got to do is ask.
How are they going to find you?
My name's in the book.
But South Miami's spirits stayed high.
They're going to fix it, and I know it's going to look even better, so that's the whole thing that counts.
And as they carted off the Cobra skeleton, it didn't look or sound like a funeral march. In South Miami, Tim Minton, News 4.
The South Miami Cobras received a present from the Miami Serpentarium today, that huge Cobra statue. But News Center 7's Marianne Murciano reports that the reptile needs a little work tonight after breaking into pieces during today's move.
All this excitement for a 35-foot snake. It was supposed to be the beginning of a new life for this 30-year-old Cobra. Instead, the beast was decapitated in the process of being moved. But still, the body was laid to rest in a flatbed for a casket, and it was off to join a waiting parade that might have been a funeral procession, except no one was mourning. Instead, hundreds of South Miami students, the new parents of the Cobra, rejoiced at the new arrival. They stood by their snake till the end, and before a crowd of reptile lovers, they watched as the Cobra was placed in its new home in pieces.
I can't believe it. They killed it. I can't believe this happened, and it's old, that's for sure.
I wish it was in one piece, I'll tell you that.
All has not been lost. A trust account has been opened to rebuild the Cobra.
Janus Enterprises Incorporated and Chase Federal have donated $500 as an opening gesture.
But until they raise the money needed, the students will wait and remember a Cobra that died today.
It's not dead for us. We're gonna put it back together. It's gonna live again. It's gonna be the reincarnation of the Cobra.
Marianne Murciano, News Center 7.
Driven along South Dixie Highway in the past 3 decades, she's been a familiar landmark. But today, the old girl, all 35 feet and 48,000 pounds of her, would come down. And like the lady's shirt says, this is no ordinary job.
One problem we're having is the slab is much too big to be moved, and we're having to cut the slab down and take the Cobra off from where its initial mounts, where it's bolted down.
Bolted down or not, she was coming down and moving to South Miami Senior High School, the home of the Cobras.
None of the other schools have this, and like they're going to go by and think, oh, they're so lucky because they have a school, and everybody's going to think, maybe they're a good school. So it's really exciting for everybody to see it and say, that's South Miami.
The time had come. Cameras cocked, eyes peeled, then the unexpected.
What actually happened?
The wire mesh underneath was so old and so rusted that we lost all our structural support from it. And when it came to actually lifting the weight, the straps just cut right through the head.
I'm a little upset. I've lived here 18 years, and the snake's been here ever since I have. It's a shame to see it break.
Despite the disappointment here, all is not lost.
You guys are going to lead the parade over there. We're going to take the Cobra. We're going to take it like it is and take it over and see what we can do about rebuilding it.
And so, with police escort leading the way, the snake slithered north on Dixie Highway to the Palmetto Expressway and to its new home along Miller Road. If you're interested in chipping in to help rebuild the Cobra mascot, write to South Miami Cobra Fund, P.O. Box 43-1051, South Miami 33243. The new owners of the Serpentarium land have already kicked in $500. John Turchin, Channel 6 News.
Trying to save the snake, or at least what is left of it. The Cobra that stood outside the old Miami Serpentarium crumbled en route to its new home at South Miami over the weekend. Disaster striking. The home of the Cobras won't give up, however. Students and alumni now mounting a fundraising campaign to rebuild the snake and put some bite back into their new mascot. Or as they now say, fangs for the memories.
Oh, it's sad.
It'll come back.
It will. That does it for us. ABC's World News Tonight is coming right.
Some South Miami high school kids finally getting things patched up, finding their perfect person to put their shattered school mascot back together again. Eyewitness News reporter Vicki Frazier says this time the monument will be truly electrifying.
It was the answer to a 10-year-old dream for students at South Miami Senior High, the perfect symbol for their school, the Cobra that sat atop the Miami Serpentarium for more than 30 years. It was to be a gift after the Miami landmark shut down a year ago, but the Cobra didn't make it across town in one piece. Students and alumni didn't give up, though. For 10 months, they've been searching for someone to put the Cobra back together again at a price they could afford. Today, they signed a contract with Hank Banks, the man who built the original Cobra in 1951.
I told him I had devised a way of building it, of rebuilding it, using a structure of welded steel and fiberglass, which would be much lighter and could be built away and then hauled over here.
Okay.
It's really great to see the enthusiasm they have.
Long time.
Long time. We started talking to Mr. Haas back in 74 and 75, and he expressed that once he did sell the Serpentarium, that the Cobra was ours. So we've been waiting a long time.
The signing was ample cause for a pep rally celebration.
I'm so happy it's going up. I'm a senior. I want to see it raised 35 feet in the air. I just want to see it Cobra stand.
Banks promises to have a 25-foot replica of this monster standing out in the field within 2.5 to 3 months. Now, if you think the one smiling down at you from South Dixie was scary, this new one will have electrical lighting all around it, so there's no question as to whose home this is. At South Miami Senior High School, Vicki Frazier, Channel 10 Eyewitness News.
And just ahead, a posh place to pick up a snack.
Stick around, we're coming back.
Miami. Mercy Hospital, just south of Vizcaya, on the bay.
The largest reptile in South Florida is returning. News Force John Holden says hundreds of students are in a frenzy.
It was October 27th, 1984, a date that's still sadly remembered by the Cobras of South Miami Senior High School, for this was when bands played, students danced in the streets, and a much-heralded movement began on the school's gigantic new mascot, a 20-ton Cobra, which once stood tall above the old Serpentarium. This was also when the Cobra's dream fell to the pavement.
It's going to look even better.
Well, now it's 10.5 months later, and the spirit for a new Cobra is still running pretty high here at South Miami Senior High, only now they're starting from scratch. This is the first pep rally of the year for the Cobras, a time to cheer a new school year, a time for the seniors to identify themselves, but primarily a time to announce the building of an entirely new Cobra mascot by the same artist who built the original Cobra for the Serpentarium, Hank Banks.
And when I saw it break up, I'm not particularly an aficionado of Cobras, but I knew what this meant for the kids in school.
There were a lot of people in the community that committed to rebuild this Cobra, and they've stood behind us, and we're going to do it.
Probably the biggest cheer of this rally came when the contract for the new Cobra was officially signed. Now, it'll take about 3 months to whip up a Cobra, for which $3,000 has already been donated, and another $3,000 is still needed. But the end result should be ferocious enough for any school spirit, and almost as ferocious as the original. True, it'll be slightly smaller, about 26 feet tall, and a lot lighter, only half a ton. But best of all,
it'll be made to move, so a crane can pick it up and put it in place.
Now you have to admit, that's something to cheer about. John Holden, News 4.
I'd be cheering because they didn't have a real live Cobra as a mascot. Thank you for having us in for news. Join us tonight at 11. Have a good evening.
Over the centuries, the snake has been everything from a symbol of evil to part of the rituals of ancient medicine. These days, there's a South Florida man who's working a brand of modern technology on a snake that has surely seen better days. News 4's Nick Bogert reports.
The Cobra that stood guard over Miami's Serpentarium for years never made it to its reincarnation as South Miami's high school mascot. The school band played taps. The pep squad was gloomy. But in this new year, new life flickers for South Miami's Cobra. Like a latter-day Dr. Frankenstein, Hank Banks works on a monstrous 17-foot replacement snake. The reinforced steel spine to support a skin of wire mesh and fiberglass.
It's built like a bridge. The sculpture of this type is like it's construction.
This 72-year-old sculptor should know. He's built giant Santas and elves, parade floats. He specializes in the large and exotic. Hank Banks actually learned to weld some 35 years ago while he was working on the original Serpentarium snake, which was 110 feet long. That super snake was the victim of a 50s hurricane. It was replaced by the snake that fell apart 15 months ago. Banks and assistant Phil Warren are making this one stronger, though making snaky shapes out of steel can be tough when you're 72.
It doesn't bother me too much unless I keep at it too long some days, and then that night I have creaks and groans.
But the years had given Banks a lot of know-how as well.
I basically want to tap his brain.
Phil Warren used to build buildings, but he signed on with Banks hoping to learn this more artistic sort of construction.
I too learned how to weld on a snake.
The welding and molding and painting is all supposed to be done by the end of this month or early next, when the Cobra is due to go up outside South Miami High. Nick Bogert, News 4.
How is it they say fog creeps in on